These are not extraordinary hits. Football has one of the highest rates of head injuries in all of sports, with an average of 150 players in the NFL per year suffering from mild traumatic brain injury. Over a period of about 20 years, advancements were made in helmet design and reforms in the rulebooks about when to put a player back in the game. But why has this reform taken so long, in such small increments, and why did it come at the cost of hundreds of players' lives along the way?
It's been a crazy last 25, 30 years with the NFL with regards to concussion.
What did it take for reform to actually happen? Ultimately, the NFL's denial of concussion seriousness led to multiple cases of public reaction, including lawsuits and self-inflicted violence in order for reform to actually take place. After years of unchecked concussions in the NFL, the death of one man was the first to a series of reactions that led to change. Mike Webster went from being a Hall of Famer in 1997 to supergluing his teeth back in before dying of a heart attack at the age of 50. Mike Webster was a multiple-time Pro Bowler offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing over 220 games and 15 seasons, the most in Steelers history. This reputation earned him the name
Your inductee into the Hall of Fame, number 52, Iron Mike Webster.
However, the years of playing took a toll on his head. After retiring at the age of 38, he had trouble remembering even simple things. Soon, this elevated, and he once spent the night in his car because he couldn't remember how to get home. With his brain damage being prominent, Mike's lawyer won him a $115,000 disability payment from the NFL, although this was late into his struggles with brain damage. But the real change happened after Mike's death. In 2002, Mike suffered a heart attack and passed away. After his death, Bennett Amalu, a neuropathologist, took in Mike's brain to study it. At first, the outside looked almost completely normal, but then Dr. Amalu sliced his brain into sections before looking at it under a microscope. In it, he found signs of dementia and abnormalities he said were not something I should be seeing in a 50-year-old man. Little did Amalu know at the time, Mike Webster's case would be the first human domino that sparked years of concussion controversy in the NFL. Amalu's study brought up a flurry of questions and concerns from the public. Later, it was found that the Webster case led to a statistically significant increase in mentions of head injuries in major news outlets. In response, the NFL formed a committee of doctors called the Mild Traumatic Brain Injury Committee. Chaired by Dr. Elliot Pellman, it seemed like this could be the beginning of reform. The committee conducted a 13-part series of studies on NFL players from 1996 to 2001 and published them in the journal Neurosurgery. As it turned out, these papers were more comforting than they were factual.
That committee, I did not have very much regard for, and certainly the leadership I had very little regard for. And I think they unfortunately set back the NFL.
These papers contained fudged data meant to downplay the severity of concussions and suggest that CTE was not prevalent in athletes like NFL players. For instance, previous players with head injuries were left off the data set. The papers made false claims, such as that players who are concussed and return to the same game have fewer signs than those who are removed from play. So, the Webster case caused a public upset that led the first potential reform, but effectively shielded themselves from even faster reform. We'd soon see that once again, individual case studies and public reaction were the only things that effectively moved the dial. The second case study of interest is Andre Waters. In 2006, Andre Waters sits at home in Tampa, Florida. Age 44, gun in hand, he is about to become the next human martyr required to make change in the NFL. After Waters' suicide, Amalu requests to study his brain, just like he did 4 years prior with Webster. Amalu is now on another case. Amalu reported on his brain that Waters' tissue had deteriorated of that of a 35-year-old man. He had also developed similarities of early Alzheimer's victims. The study of Andre Waters' brain made the New York Times headlines, gaining traction and making national news. In the following 2 years, the Times would publish 18 different headlines on football-related concussion stories, were also run by The New Yorker, GQ, and 60 Minutes. Google searches for concussions also spiked during this time. Most importantly, Waters' death inspired Sylvia Mackey, wife of former player John Mackey, who had also suffered, to write a letter to the NFL commissioner. Her letter seemed to be the last straw that led to a collective bargaining agreement. A new provision was added that would provide medical benefits under the league's retirement plan to former players suffering from dementia, who had played a certain number of seasons with the league or who were permanently disabled. These were the first concussion reforms in the NFL.
At the time, both of those individuals died. Subsequently, the NFL has acknowledged the existence of CTE.
But the work still wasn't done yet. Following the letter sent to the commissioner, in 2007, the NFL held a concussion summit, at which they backtracked the reforms and doubled down on their denial. MTBI committee chair Ira Carson told reporters, quote, "In my opinion, the only significant valid evidence of CTE in athletes is boxers and in some steeplechase jockeys. It's never been scientifically and validly documented in any other athletes. Anecdotes do not make scientifically valid evidence. I am a man of science. I believe in empirically determined scientifically valid data, and that is not scientifically valid data." End quote. The third and final vital case study is Dave Durson. In 2011, after years of suffering from the effects of CTE from his time playing football, including depression, cognitive decline, and impulse control, Durson took his own life. But notably, he shot himself in the chest, not the head, which was intentionally done to preserve his own brain, along with a note that was found in his home. Quote, "Please see that my brain is given to the NFL's brain bank." End quote. While the other cases were striking, this one was undeniable. The NFL's history of concussion denial had pushed players to a point of taking their own lives and giving up their brains for research as a desperate last attempt to change. Durson's death inspired some of the most major reforms to date. By the end of 2011, the NFL, with no other option, had finally made a significant change to the game, creating a new, updated concussion protocol for what to do with the player after sustaining a concussion. This would actually help players recover from their concussions by increasing the time away from contact and reducing cardiovascular activity while symptoms were still present. And the precautions taken could vary by case-by-case basis. This would minimize damage in the long run especially. Durson's sacrificial suicide also caused a domino effect in reactions. A year later, Junior Seau followed suit, shooting himself in the chest to preserve his brain as well. By 2017, 11 players had donated their brains, all of which were confirmed to have CTE. What followed was a slew of lawsuits. In 2012, a master document of more than 85 suits involving over 2,000 former NFL players was made publicly available. The NFL was sued for voluntary concealment, head trauma, and even glorifying and marketing violence. As a conciliatory measure, the NFL eventually donated $30 million to the National Institute of Health for brain research in 2012. By 2014, they were working towards a $700 million settlement with over 20,000 former players. Even so, this statement was still disputed by Durson's family for not compensating for the diagnosis made after the agreement's approval. Perhaps the biggest effect was that the general public was finally in the know. In 2016, the New York Times published an expose about the MTBI committee exposing the research that omitted more than 100 diagnosed concussions. And so, the NFL was forced to listen. Around the same time, the NFL added new concussion rules and a $100 million initiative called Play Smart, Play Safe, and $60 million going towards technological development such as better helmets. $40 million went towards medical research. Today, NFL return to play policies are very similar to when they were updated in 2011, but with more attention to detail, policies have gone even further than the professional level and have now extended to high school and youth athletics, now requiring clearance from athletic trainers before proceeding with any athletic activity. This period of slow reform in the NFL, beginning with the death of Mike Webster at the turn of the century, marked a culture shift in sports history. It revealed how reform often requires extreme, undeniable reactions from individual people. This is a trend we can observe throughout other events in history, from political martyrs like Mahatma Gandhi to the murder of Emmett Till, which is often cited as a catalyst for civil rights movement. This begs the question, when, in a case like the NFL, enough money is invested in keeping reform from happening, will violent reactions and sacrificed lives always be necessary for real change? Perhaps only time will tell.